Good evening or good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Regina Yao, the founder and president of the Pixel Project, and I'm moderating the 7th YouTube session of the 9th annual International Women's Day edition of our Read for Pixels campaign. Now, through Read for Pixels, the Pixel Project is collaborating with 13 award-winning best-selling authors to raise awareness about violence against women and to raise funds for the Pixel Project to keep our efforts to end violence against women alive and kicking. Now, we'll be telling you more about the Read for Pixels fundraiser, which has lots and lots of exclusive author goodies a little later in the session. And you can find out more about the Pixel Project and how to stop violence against women and also what is violence against women. You can find out more at www.thepixelproject.net. We have a very special guest today for today's live Read for Pixels discussion Q&A session. It's the fabulous historical fiction author Vanessa Riley. Now, Dr. Riley, or Vanessa, as she very kindly gave us permission to call her, is the award-winning author of Island Queen, a Good Morning America buzz pick. Her historical novels showcase the hidden histories of Black women and women of color, emphasizing strong sisterhoods and dazzling multicultural communities. Her works encompass historical fiction, historical romance, and historical mystery, and have been reviewed by the AAMBC, Washington Post, Entertainment Weekly, NPR, Publishers Weekly, and the New York Times. And she's received starred reviews from Publishers Weekly and Booklist. Now, aside from very generously donating her time to join us here in today's Read for Pixels live stream session, Vanessa has also generously donated some exclusive signed and personalized book bundles to the stash of author goodies we have up as treats for donors on the Read for Pixels Rally Up fundraising page. Now, for US donors, there are two different types of bundles. So for the first bundle, it's Vanessa's Rogues and Remarkable Women Goodie Bundle. And this is just perfect for historical romance fans in the US. Vanessa will be giving away one of this bundle. And if you love to read historical romances powered by a diverse and engaging cast, you will love this. So this bundle includes A Duke, a Lady, and Her Baby, and it's the mass market paperback, and Earl, the Girl, and Her Toddler, just a trade paperback. Oh, that's a gorgeous cover, Vanessa. Really gorgeous. Yeah, it is. And A Duke, the Spy, an Artist, and a Lie. I love this title. This sounds almost like a poem. It's a trade paperback. And Vanessa's also going to tuck in 2 bookmarks to go with it. So you will always know, you know, if you get interrupted halfway, which hopefully you don't while reading Vanessa's books, that you can always keep your place. And there's only one of this bundle. And the second bundle for US donors only is her tote bag of Warrior Woman books. Now, this is for all historical fiction fans. Now, Vanessa will be giving away 1 tote bag, that's the tote bag, filled with historical fiction to 1 Read for Pixels donor who loves reading stories about the lives of courageous and complex Black heroines in history. And the bundle includes that tote bag, that really cool tote bag, Island Queen, which is a trade paperback, and Sister Mother Warrior, which is the hardcover edition. That's gorgeous. Who did the art for that? That's gorgeous. Who's the artist?
It is Tanya Engel. She is an artist, a freelance artist out of Michigan. And she's been doing the covers for my historical fictions with William Morrow. And the book that's coming out in July. Look at this one.
Oh, that's gorgeous. We'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the session today. And Vanessa also tuck in a bookmark, not forgetting this person. You need a bookmark to keep your place in the book if you are reading it halfway and need to get off the bus or something or go to something else. And Vanessa has not forgotten about donors outside the US, and she has a mini starter book bundle. This is unsigned because Vanessa's going to get Book Depository to deliver a starter bundle of a book. So there'll be 1 romance book, which is A Duke, a Lady, and a Baby. And the other one will be one of her historical fiction books, which is Island Queen. So you get one of each, and it will be unsigned and delivered directly to the donor anywhere in the world where Book Depository
Mhm.
actually delivers. I
Yeah.
think they deliver most places, right? I mean,
We're supposed to be able to most places. And when you get it, if you email me at vanessa@vanessariley.com, I will put a book plate in the mail and mail it to you. So that way you will have a signed copy.
oh yes, that is so cool. And book plates are really pretty. Some book plates are really do match the book that they are in. So everyone take note of that. All right, so just to let everyone know, we have had a really slow start to our fundraiser, and we're about halfway through. Well, we're about almost 3 weeks into the fundraiser, about 3 weeks into the fundraiser, and we've only raised $1,010 towards our $5,000 goal so far, and it's already the third week, as I said. So please give generously before the fundraiser ends on the 15th of April. All funds go towards the Pixel Project's work to help end violence against women, including the Read for Pixels program, which is this show today is part of. And if you're watching this session on YouTube right now, you will be able to ask Vanessa questions live. Just make sure you're logged into your YouTube account so that you can type your questions into the chat box to the right of the YouTube screen. And Anusha, who is today's producer and chat box moderator, will relay them to me to read out to Vanessa to answer. And now over to Vanessa. Welcome to Read for Pixels. What will you be reading for us today?
I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek at Queen of Exiles. Queen of Exiles will be coming out in July of this year. And this is a historical fiction based on the life of Queen Marie Louise Covidad Christophe. She is the first and only queen of Haiti, and she helped her husband Henri build the kingdom of Haiti. And when you read the extent of what they did together, bringing vaccinations to the country,
We brought vaccinations to the
brought
country.
vaccinations to the
Oh,
country.
that's cool. That's cool.
You could go. They believed in everyone being educated, women and men. And you would go into the classrooms, and they're speaking both French and English. So it was a very aggressive program that King Henri and Queen Louise were trying to do to get their people ready for this new world. Unfortunately, the new world was not trying to embrace a free Haiti. But the kingdom falls, and Queen Louise and her daughters escape, and they go to Europe, and they have to rebuild their entire lives. And so you're going to see somewhat of a dual timeline of what was the kingdom like, the problems, the things that were happening, as well as how do you restore your life when you have to start over, especially when you were a queen and you have daughters who are princesses, and you now have to start over in a completely different world. As a side note, when you get this book, you're going to get the houses of the royal houses within Haiti, the royal figures that she's going to meet as she goes throughout Europe. And then you also have these are the actual newspaper clippings of the time. So we start with a newspaper clipping, Public Ledger Daily, November 20th, 1821. It is rumored that Madame Christophe, the Queen of Haiti, while resident of one of the hotels in town, lost jewelry in the amount of 1,500 pounds. 1821 London. Dumping the contents of my last trunk onto the floor, I wanted to shriek. I checked again and again, ripping at petticoats, throwing gowns into the air in my suite at the Osborne Hotel. Nothing. Madam, it's not here. Madam, shaking my head, I blocked Zephyrine reasonable words. My jewels had to be here. A bag with emeralds, diamonds, and rubies, along with a cluster of gold coins. Items I'd risked my life smuggling out of Haiti needed to be wrested from its hiding place. The insurance of being able to pay our way in this strange new land couldn't vanish. I'll search again, I said in a voice breaking with tears. Turning to my weather portmanteau, something I'd gotten from my sister during my captivity, I hunted and hoped. More tossed silks flopping to the ground like ghosts. More bruising of my knuckles slapping along the bottom of the empty trunk. More punishing fear rocking and shredding my insides. My maids grabbed my wrists and she pulled me to the burgundy tapestry, the covering used to warm the cold floors. It's stolen Marena. Wet streaks drizzled down Zephyrine''s brown cheeks to the front of her white bib apron. Prim and pressed and resolute in her service to me, my friend awaited orders from her sovereign. I'm not that anymore. I'm no longer a queen. Flat and pulsing, wanting to grab onto something real, I stilled my hands. I'm just Madame Christophe, nothing more. My fingers sank deeper into the softness of the woven silk, the Indian rug. I could picture the care and labor it had cost to produce this treasure upon a loom. But I had to clutch, to claw at something I could fight. It's not here, Zephyrine sniffed, then gulped a breath. We've checked and checked. The necklaces, the bracelets, and the pins are gone. She was right. We had nothing to sell to pay for food or these fancy lodgings. No rings, no pearls, not even my favorite emerald pieces. The yellow satin bag with all the valuables that the man I loved, my king, had given to me, had disappeared. Turning from her, I wanted to pretend nothing had happened, but I'd lived through so many things I wanted to wish away. Couldn't this merely be another nightmare? Exile to Europe was salvation, renewal. I wanted to pray, but God wouldn't hear an angry woman. So once again, that is Queen of Exiles
That is
in
excellent.
July.
Hope. I want to know what happens now.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling that you get, a sinking feeling in your stomach that your resources, what you stashed away, gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
It's your plan. And one of the things I find fascinating is everywhere this woman went, newspapers were in her face, they were capturing her journey. So not only are you now no longer a queen, your jewels are gone, but the world stage is still looking at you. They are still tracking your every moment, and you know it. And they're wanting you to fail.
Yeah, historical paparazzi.
Exactly.
So let's get started talking about your female characters. So your stories all feature intrepid, resourceful, and complex female characters, ranging from Patience Jordan and Jemima St. Moore in your Rogues and Remarkable Women historical romance series, to those in your historical fiction novels, including the two protagonists in Sister Mother Warrior, the first Empress of Haiti, Marie Claire how do we say her name? Bonheur?
Bonnet. Bonnet, yeah.
Bonheur, and Grand Toya, a West African born warrior who helped lead the rebellion that drove out the French and freed the enslaved people of Haiti. Now, historical fiction, be they historical mysteries, historical women's fiction, or historical romance, have their share of female stereotypes and tropes. Writing historical novels also comes with certain constraints in terms of staying true to the norms of the period. Additionally, your stories focus on female characters and figures who are Black or women of color. So it's probably not a stretch to deduce that the risk of stereotyping is tripled when gender, and race and history intersect. Now, how do you challenge stereotypes and subvert tropes in historical romance to create female characters with complexity and agency when dealing with the world around them, including situations that involve sexism, misogyny, and violence against women and girls, while also staying true to the time period of your novels?
Yeah. The first thing is one has to divorce the idea that women were monolithic, that women were the weaker sex, that they had to be sheltered, they had no agency. Women have always found a way to do the things they knew needed to be done. So At times, they may not have had the right to vote, the right to open their own accounts, but they found ways of making sure their voices were heard. So it's not necessarily a stretch to find a woman with agency, because the thing is, history is littered with women who challenged the status quo and did something phenomenal. But unfortunately, many historians don't value the sacrifices or contributions that women have made. So you get this glossing over. I think one of the most fascinating things is you'll now see books called "The Wife of," "The Sister of this famous man," because it's telling you these were the women who were supporting this famous guy to do what they need to do. In Sister Mother Warrior, you have Jean-Jacques Dessalines. I am firmly convinced from the historical record, if it not be for Marie Claire Bonner and Grantoya, Haiti would not be free, and Jean-Jacques Dessalines would not be the man he became. Jean-Jacques Dessalines gathered everybody from all parts of Haiti, from all the way up in the mountains, the Tainos in the mountains, to the Blancs who stayed because they knew freedom should reign, to all of the freed enslaved people and free peoples of color. He gathered them all, he unified them, and they were able to push the French from their land. But he learned how to fight. He learned all of his military strategy from Grantoya. Grantoya was a Dahomey warrior. She taught him how to use guns. She taught him how to fight. She taught him how to position its troops in the mountains based on the stars because of the astrology and astronomy that she knew from her culture. Marie Claire Bonner, from an early age, has this heart for people and feeding people and caring for the people. She became his conscience when he was filled with so much bitterness because of the brutality of enslavement. He declares in his constitution, when he becomes emperor, that everyone is black. He makes everybody, no matter who they were, on equal footing, because that was the way he wanted to reign. That is Mary Claire's um, agency coming through him, as well as, once again, to be one of he's looked at as one of the military strategists of the time, top military strategists. All of that is Abadoya. So you can always find women who exceed the norm. So it's not even really hard for me to conceive these characters. What I have to do is you're challenged with people because they've read a million books where women were docile or abused or neglected. They have a lens of the past. That's all it is. Um, what we have to see is history has many sides. Yes, there is pain, but there is also joy. There is times of hope, and then there's overcoming your circumstances because you know you deserve more. And those are the kind of women that I weave into these stories. So to me, it's not hard. Um, to me, it's more it's a joy. I feel like I'm returning the ancients to their proper places, and I'm letting people have hope where they may not have had hope, because you can't run from your history. And if you believe that your history is nothing but pain, and it's only this, and there was nobody that ever made it up to here, it limits the ways you think you can dream. I was very lucky to have parents who made sure we knew how to dream, who made sure we knew the truth, who made sure that history was important, made sure that literature was a fundamental part of our upbringing. And that's all helped me to craft these stories, which I hope are engaging and joyful and interesting and keep you hooked to the last page.
And they do. So everyone, please go and, if you can't afford Vanessa's books, go to your nearest library and ask your librarian. If you can't see Vanessa's books in the library, ask your librarian to order Vanessa's books.
Yeah, ask them why they don't have them. They should have Vanessa Riley's books.
So picking up from what we were saying before we've gone on air today, we were talking about diversity in romance.
Mhm.
So in terms of your historical romances, have you experienced any pushbacks from romance readers who aren't used to a more diverse range of heroines beyond the stereotype of the beautiful white heroine? I'm doing this in air quotes right now. And how have you addressed these objections?
Yeah. I often find people saying it's not historically accurate for my heroines to exist because they're under this lens. They assume that every Black person or anyone of color was always enslaved. London has between 10 and 20,000 free Blacks during the time of Jane Austen. This is prior to 1865 for those of us in the United States. That's why Sanditon, the very last book, unfortunately, she didn't complete. The richest woman in this book is a wealthy woman from the West Indies. Why would Jane Austen, who some people think is the archetype for creating romance, Regency romance particularly, why would she do that? Austen always wrote about what she saw. So there's a real Mr. Darcy running around out there. Well, he's probably dead by now, but there was a real Mr. Darcy, right? And I'm hoping he was hot like Colin Firth. I really hope that. But she saw there are people, there was migration. The one reason I love bringing the West Indies back into London in the way trade and everything moved around the world is because the world was very interconnected. And you had people, mixed race, free people of color, who would send their children to Europe for education. There are schools in Inverness, in Scotland, in Glasgow, Scotland, that cater to Black and free and mixed race children, because these children are often wealthy, because to go these distances, very wealthy. But people don't know that. They look at the Hare, Georgette Hare. And Georgette Hare, during her time, she was a very interesting woman. She's written some books I actually like of hers, but she was highly anti-Semitic, and so you'll find books that that show what she's thinking. That should not be used as a model. And historical accuracy. If you really want to be historically accurate, not a lot of people bathed back then, so everybody's sniffing on their heroes to smell that sandalwood. You wouldn't necessarily. There was a reason they put a lot of perfume on. Okay, we're not even going to go with dental hygiene and the number of venereal diseases that are flagrant during this time frame. So if you really want this, and we didn't even touch that. All those Mayfair mansions were because they owned properties in the West Indies, and properties including chattel, and chattel is enslaved people. So these dukes with power, and so if you want real historical accuracy, if that's your cudgel you wish to die upon, that's where you got to go. And you've got to explain it all, and how we're supposed to root for these people that you want to put on a pedestal, this pristine white pedestal, without mentioning all these other things, from venereal diseases to enslavement. Or is it better to look at a fuller lens where you see free peoples of color in the trade classes, free peoples of color going here, getting education, and that I've often found that money trumps race. So interracial relationships were prevalent. They have been rewritten in some of the books and some of the albums and books, because subsequent generations don't want to admit that they had mixed race or Black people or people of color in their families. But that's a whole other thing. But you can look from genetic files where it has to be because of where people are coming from, and you look at their lineage. There's a whole new taking a look at Queen Charlotte and her ancestry. So I often put in the back, often put in the back of my book, I put footnotes, I put a bibliography. If you go to my website, vanessariley.com, I have history. I have places you can click on. You can look. You don't have to trust me. You can go to the resources and places that I've been in order to come up with these things. So what we're really doing, I'm restoring history. And, every artist focuses on what they want to focus on. Some people wish to focus on nothing but the ton, the richest of the rich folks. Some people want to focus on the enslavement story. Some people want to focus other places. I want to focus on the women who lived during this time, who did incredible, exciting, phenomenal things, who need their pearls, who need to be given the restored the agency that they had, and achieve things and found happiness, and sometimes they've got their happy ever after. Those are the stories I want to write.
Yeah. And I'm gonna back you up about the education bit because I'm also from a post-colonial country, and it was a post-British colonial country, and India as well. And I'm in Malaysia, and India is also a post-British colony, and basically we had a we have a long history of people, middle class and above, sending their children to England to be educated. And this has stretched on for well over a century at this point. And so, yeah, I mean, London has always been a metropolis, has always been diverse. And
Exactly.
just an observation that the BBC does a lot of really great costume dramas, right? Period dramas. And they're getting pushback from viewers going, but why are they black and people of color now in the background, in the cast and stuff? And so the producers and screenwriters actually have to push back and say, this is actually what it was. London has always been like this, at least London, the port cities like Bristol, Liverpool, they've always been like this. This is international.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I find records of sailors that coming from the West Indies, or even Africa, that are now working in the port cities. Um, it, how publishing decided that Hare's model was the model to be used for Regency romance, I do not understand. The books are entertaining, but that shouldn't be the model of this is the way things were. There's a fiction is fiction for a reason. And you get to make up things, and you get to write about the things you want. No one should ever be excluded from writing about the things they want, but they should not write things that hurt people,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I never want to do something that's going to hurt somebody, hurt a population, hurt somebody, degrading their heritage, et cetera, or excluding them from a world which I knew they belonged in. And unfortunately, she's guilty of that. And she's not the only one. And when you learn, and the thing is, there are books, there are romances that I like that aren't necessarily PC today, because they were they I look at them now, they're kind of bananas, some of these stories, but those were written during a time frame where they could be written. So it is what it is, but that shouldn't be the lens which we say this was popular, and then we stay this way. I'm so glad we're not a stagnant people. I'm so glad that we're able to evolve, and now we're in an era where everybody's story matters, and everybody gets to see themselves in romances, in fiction, in mysteries, and in this Regency time, which was actually very diverse.
Yeah. So we're talking about history and what goes into what choices authors make in which part of history they want to write about. So what you write a lot about, all your books are about these really extraordinary black women from history, and you brought them to vibrant life in all your historical fiction books. What were the particular challenges you faced as an author when you're retelling their stories as historical fiction?
You always want to try and get it right. And right is, we put right in quotes, right?
Mhm.
Um, you know, Men have much more diaries that have lasted, diaries and letters. Men wrote letters and you still have them. Women, I guess, were too busy doing other things, so you don't find many letters, or you get, in a case of like Queen Victoria, a lot of them destroyed. And so you have to look for other ways to find pieces of their life. For in Island Queen, for Dorothy Kerwin Thomas, I had to look at deeds and records and other people's writing about her. Um, One letter, which till to this day I get a tickle from it. He's writing that he just ran in. He's in Glasgow, Scotland, and he just ran into Doll Thomas and her 18 grandkids. Dorothy is in she lived in Guyana, present day Guyana. It was called Demerara, but present day Guyana, which is below the equator. So she put 18 grandkids on a boat and went all the way up to Glasgow, Scotland. We have difficulties getting kids in the backseat to go to Walmart.
She's
She's doing that with 18
doing
grandkids.
1/8. She
Yes,
got 18 on
eight,
the long boat journey, and they all got there in one piece.
yes, because she chartered the boat. It was her
Wow.
boat. She chartered the boat, and once again, these are records. This is not something I'm making up. And there are people talking about it. Dorothy was famous during her time frame. Dorothy Thomas, Mrs. Thomas. She was very famous. And I personally don't know why she's not in our history books, because of some of the things she did with saving generational wealth for women and for Black women, women of color in the West Indies, in Guyana. She should be a hero in our books. I literally found her from a comic book sketch and dug and pieced her life together. When you're piecing people's lives together, you're going to miss something. I'm pretty exhaustive, so if I miss something, it's going to be something really minor, because I try and dig as much as possible to find these things, because it's important. I want to get their lives right. But I also, you get to choose as a fiction writer where you start telling their story and when you end. I'm going to always try and leave you on a power positive moment. So in some people's lives, I may not do cradle to grave. I may do a moment in time here, and then a moment in time 20 years out, where they're living their truth, where they are victorious in whatever they were trying to set out to do. It's my my perspective as an author, because this is the way I want to tell the story. Other people can tell things differently, and everybody has the opportunity to tell what they want. But when you get a Vanessa Riley book, I'm gonna try and leave you motivated by the time you get to that. Now, I'm gonna tell you right. I will take you on a journey. You will go on a journey, but I want you motivated by the time you finish the book.
Yeah, and that's doing the women justice. And we had another historical fiction author, and she pointed out, she said, the reason we don't hear about all these remarkable women is the whole, I think there's like a little saying that says the winner gets to write all write the
That's the
history.
victor.
The victor gets to write the history of everything. And basically when we look at governments, even governments now rewriting history books that kids in schools are learning in quite a few countries, you start to think, now who are they leaving out, what are they leaving out? And
Yes.
usually it's the women that they're leaving out. So unless
Funny
it's
how
something,
that happens. Funny how
yeah,
that happens.
yeah. So anyway, so let's pivot a bit and talk about the men in your books.
Hmm.
And there are a wide variety of male characters in your books, ranging from the sexist and misogynist men to those who respect women as their equals. Now, do you think reframing how stories describe men away from hostile and toxic stereotypes and towards complexity and even vulnerability can be one of the ways that authors can break away from harmful tropes that promote toxic masculinity and the dehumanization of women?
Absolutely. And because as women are not a monolith, neither are men. Um, when you have a villain, somebody that's evil, um, you can always do a 2D, he's evil, he's doing it because he's evil, et cetera, et cetera. Or you could try and get into this middle space where he believes he's right. He believes he's right in what he's doing. So there's a passion behind what he's doing. And to me, that's much more interesting, because men are very interesting. They are not 2D. Um, when I choose these women, I put my eyes like, what would make a woman like a Dorothy Kerwin Thomas, or like a Patience Jordan in A Duke, the Lady and Baby? What kind of man would be the ideal man for her? For Patience Jordan, she's someone who's bucking the system. She doesn't believe the system works for her. She wants to get her kid and she wants to leave and go home. Well, a man who's about the system, a man who is about rules, that's an interesting foil. But now something has happened in his life where he now is looking and reanalyzing these rules and thinking maybe they weren't always right. A man on a journey of discovery is sexy. It is potent, and it's the kind of man that these women deserve. So when I write heroes, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for those moments of discovery, because not everybody has it together when they come into different circumstances, and people need to be given grace to grow and mature. But it's not a
Mm-hmm.
woman's job to grow and mature somebody. They need
Mm-hmm.
to get their acts together before they can competently come into a relationship with the woman they're supposed to be with. And so you guys, so I'm gonna take you on a journey, because both people, some people say the my other half. If you're a half a person and you're looking for somebody to make you whole, that's not the good. You need to be whole in yourself before you decide to be with someone, because you guys need to be better together than you being good all by yourself. And so the journey of showing a whole individual, so a whole man, one who's on a journey, one who understands he needs something else in his life, one who's got goals that he is trying to accomplish. And then he makes that realization that my life is decent. But if I can love this woman and she can love me, my life is going to be even better. And so those are those moments that you want to see in a romance. Those are the moments that make somebody heroic. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, he has so many good qualities, but if you know his history, by the time he gets to the end phase of his life, he's a player. He got like women everywhere in that country, and it's like, dude, what's up with that? Anywho, his journey, when he's faithful, his journey, it's an interesting play, because you have this woman who's caring, who's understanding, but they have different backgrounds. She's never been enslaved. He is coming from enslavement. He has seen the way families are torn apart. He's seen these things to make him feel not human. And then you have a woman whose empathy is overflowing. So that's another type of journey. And when they are together, it is wonderful. But even in the end, where she has to make a decision of what's going to make her happy, it may not necessarily be being with him. These are choices that these women make. And because I work very hard on character development, character arcs, you will see all the different facets of somebody growing into themselves, growing into their power, and hopefully growing into a love that is going to be something lasting, that makes a difference in their lives for the good.
Yeah, and when we talk about this reframing and character and the male characters growing, do you think that this sort of thing is more difficult and complex to achieve in historical fiction set during periods when patriarchal norms were largely unchallenged and women's movements have not yet come to prominence? Is it more difficult to write a man who grows as a person at the time? Because it's so convenient, right? They can just go along with the rules and the
Yeah.
privileges of the patriarchy.
Well, that's why they have to have a reason why they need to change. And the reason cannot be love. They can't be changing, oh, because I found this right woman. So now I know my life is totally screwed up. So I'm just going to change and be a different guy. No, he needs to be on a journey independent of her. Something deep in his soul is missing, and that he begins to look at his circumstances in a different light. And now she may help him see different things, but he's on this journey to find a better him. And when you're on this journey to find a better him, you're going to question the rules. You're going to be looking at the power dynamics. You're going to be looking for those moments where you can bring empathy and this new look at the world. So if you're a guy who's not on this journey, you're not going to be a hero, at least in my book, because there's no point. Because if you're a typical guy, you're enjoying the patriarchy.
Oh yeah.
It's working for you. It's giving you the things you need. you're gonna probably just do a marriage of convenience and get her money, because that's why you were marrying her in the first place, was control of her assets, and you're good. That to me is not going to make it into, he might be a villain because he believes he's right.
That was horrible, though. I mean,
Yeah.
in romance books, what I've noticed is quite a few historical romance authors are working that the issue of when a woman marries a man, she's no longer her own person. The wife is folded into the husband's rights
Mhm.
as one person. So he has control over everything. She starts a business, all the profits go to him. It's never in her name. All her
Everything.
money, unless her family has made some legal arrangements beforehand,
Yes.
all the money goes to him.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking that's not fair. That's
Oh, and
really not
these
fair.
these poor women who go and elope, which means you got married without a contract, you're screwed. I'm gonna tell you right now, you are so screwed, because that contract protects you in so many different circles. But even when the dowry is actually your widow's dower, that's the money you're supposed to live on if something happens to your husband. And that dowry, or widow's dower, is administered by the family. So if the family hates you and you don't have a document that says this is how things are going to be administered, you're screwed, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, that's why you women have to marry, so it have to be so much more than the feelings. It's got to make sense to their world, because this legally, he now gets control of your assets. So unless you have things that your family have set up that says this always will maintain in this line and da 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 da, and you are going to have to deal with this man who may have just been marrying you for the assets. You didn't know. It's too late to go my bad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, before we continue, Anusha, our producer today, found a little, she has found a resource for Dorothy Kirwan Thomas, and I'll share it on screen. Say some quick facts about Dorothy. I think Kirwan, it should be Kirwan. Thomas, in case anyone wanted it, so you go to caribbeanandco.com/the
Mhm.
Queen of Demerara. Ooh,
Mhm.
Demerara sugar. Yeah,
Yes, that's exactly where you're getting it from.
yeah. She
Yeah,
was a pretty amazing woman.
she was amazing, amazing woman. Some of the scandalous parts of her life, like she had an affair with Prince William, who's the future prince. Uh,
Wait,
Prince
she
William's full
did?
name is Prince Henry William. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, or Prince William Henry is his full name. I just think that's hilarious. But he goes on to be future King William the Fourth.
Oh,
Yeah, so he is the Sailor King. So when he's young, he and his boys are on the frigates and they're patrolling the West Indies, and they use that as an excuse to go to every brothel in every one of the islands. And they party so hard at a brothel in Jamaica that they break it. I don't know exactly how you break a brothel, but they broke it and he had to pay for it the next day. So the
wow.
party man, he goes everywhere, but when he gets to Dominica, now his friends are writing back and they're like, he's with that woman again. He's different. He's dancing with Dorothy Kerwin at the Mulatto Ball. He's a changed man when he's with Dorothy. And the letters bear it out.
Okay. So, we have been talking about stories because history is really stories, right? History is literally a series of stories in chronological order, well, more or less, because yeah. So stories can be one of the most powerful ways of bringing about social change because they can help change cultural narratives and perspectives about social issues and traditions. Your historical novels cover issues such as sexism, misogyny, and violence against women, and how they intersect with racism, colonialism, and social economic class. Now, do you think writers who write historical fiction of any kind have a responsibility to address themes of sexism, misogyny, and violence against women in their stories? Since history is rarely kind to women and gender based violence can take very specific forms depending on the historical period that the author chooses.
Um, I'm very careful about telling another author what they need to do. And when you're writing women and your focus is on writing women, powerful women, and they're challenging their circumstances, you have to do it right. So if you're not going to put in the work to really understand how much agency a woman had during those time frames, how she could use soft power, uh, what were the legal ramifications? Was there any legal provision? If you're not going to do that work, then maybe you should avoid writing about these topics because you're not going to do it well and you're going to end up hurting more people. And I'm a firm believer of not hurting people. And so I do a lot of research. So if I am touching a topic, I'm going to do an incredible amount of research because I want to make sure I get it right. Um, Figuring out the ways in which a woman can maintain her agency even when she's in a relationship, even if she's married, during these time frames when women had limited power, economic, political, even in the home, very limited powers. How can they show the power they have? How can they make sure they are protected? How can they make sure that their partners do not treat them in misogynistic ways? You have to do research to figure out how that can happen, how good behavior can be normalized within your stories. But if you're not willing to do the work, particularly when there's an intersection of race, if you're not going to do the work, then maybe you don't do that piece of the story. You do something different because you will hurt. If you don't do the work, you're going to rely on stereotypes. You're going to use tropes that may not be accurate in the portrayal of these relationships, the power dynamics, the way people can use agency, and then there's just the subtle things um, of ways racism can be shown. It's not always using the big N word. It's other ways in which you use money, which you use forcing people to live certain ways, certain places. There's different ways of showing racism that don't necessarily have to do with what we think of when we think something is racist. So it's a lot to unpack. And there are many people who like it's fiction. It should be whatever it is. If that's your philosophy, go with it. No one should ever tell you what you should or shouldn't write. If you're wanting to spend the hard work and the time, you can attack whatever you need to attack. You can write what you want to write. I am a proponent of doing the work. I want to bring the most rich, layered stories that I possibly can to my readers. I want you to be motivated. I want you to learn maybe a little something along the way that you may not have known about the era, the time, or the people. And I want you to be encouraged. So this is a book that you talk about to other people because that's how you win the battle against racism and misogyny and sexism, is by people telling stories of positive relationships, of people telling stories of women who've done phenomenal and great things to advance the race or advance womanhood or advance peoplehood. That's how we win.
You should be show that there's a precedent that it can be done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And women and people of color and Black people have been doing it all through history, all through colonial history.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have a question from the audience, and she's a librarian. So she has
Ooh, hello, librarian.
her name is Misty306. Well, her handle is Misty306, and she's a regular viewer of ours. And Misty is a librarian over on the West Coast. And her question is, you mentioned how history continues to be rewritten in front of the living in modern society. Do you believe this is why the topic of banned books is back in discussion in the US?
The topic of banned books is because people are banning books, which is, I don't understand that. I don't understand how fiction can frighten somebody so much that they want to ban a book, take it out of circulation. And and librarians, you guys are feeling the fire right now. So anything we authors can do to help, to strengthen you, please let us know. Please reach out, because you're kind of in the foreground. Everybody goes to a library to get access to books, to new worlds, and y'all are fighting that fight on a daily basis. Um, People are fearful. Uh, I look at some of the images of little Ruby going to school, and you see these angry women, and they're cursing at this little kid. Well, some of those people are people's grandmas right now, and they're people are like, "That's is that you, grandma? Is that?" And in this day and age, grandma probably wouldn't be encouraging anybody to go yell at a little 6-year-old kid who's trying to get an education. So there's a bit of shame that people want to hide, and they want to gloss over, and they want to say it wasn't really that bad, and they were good slave owners, and all these sorts of foolishness to make us feel better. But everybody's got to realize, except for that grandma who was shouting at Ruby, you didn't do this, right? And we all have a hand. We are all complicit in the sins of this world. But you have to stand in truth. And the fact now that there is now room for people to do new scholarship, to present more fair, more balanced points of view of history, they should be applauded. No one should feel threatened. Or like people are going to start pointing at you like you did it. You didn't do it, unless of course you are the grandma who was that woman pointing at Ruby. Hopefully you've come into Jesus, and you've had a moment, and you've repented for your sins, for the foolishness of the past. But everybody else, we should be able to read about you.
Mhm.
We should be able to make up our own minds about what's going on.
Oh yeah. So just a quick correction. Misty just corrected me. She's on the East Coast, not the West Coast. She's on the East Coast, and she and Anusha are having a really interesting conversation in the YouTube chat box. So I'm going to put some of your comments on screen. So Anusha asked, Misty, is your library affected by any of these new rules of what books children can access? And Misty said, not in my library, but there are other ones in my region where there was an uproar by the patrons in those communities. And that was against removal. In fact, it was the library board that made the decision without consulting any of the librarians, including the director. And Nikki, who is our assistant producer, said teachers also have that issue with their classrooms as well. People fear what they don't understand. And for a rather amusing response to your what you said just now about breaking the brothel.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anusha, our producer, says you break a brothel in a raucous party or fight, I suppose, but at least they paid for it. So
Okay.
yeah. So, and Missy says, yeah, so just at the end of the discussion, Missy says librarians are supposed to be the ones who make such decisions. This is why lawmakers have been threatening librarians with their jobs if they do not comply with removing the books and or displays. And we do keep track because we run Read for Pixels. We do keep track of all of this. And they were trying to do that in Missouri. That's horrible. They were trying to fire librarians if libraries kept
And it's
so.
some of these states that are doing it, they're like at the bottom of the educational totem pole to begin with, and limiting access to knowledge, to anything that can get a kid to read. It's insane. It's insane. So, like I said, all you librarians, all you teachers out there, let us authors know how we can help. You're fighting the good fight. Uh, People need to read. People need to see different things. And this taking away of history because they're scared, or they feel ashamed, or they think people are going to look at them funny. I think people are smart enough to realize that they're not reading about anybody that they know. They're not reading about something that you are personally responsible for. So they need to just ease up on feeling guilty, or et cetera, or feeling bad. But if you can feel empathy, which I think more of this world needs. We need to feel empathetic when we read about enslavement. We need to feel empathy when we read about what happened with the Indians in the West. We need to feel empathetic when we think about all the world that has been colonized. We need to read about it. We need to understand it because history does repeat itself when we don't. One of the most interesting things I read when I was researching for Island Queen was that in Grenada, people would come up to Black people, people of color, and ask them to see their papers. And these papers were their manumissions, which means they were freed because they paid the money to be freed, or it was their birth certificate. People didn't often carry these documents. They may be several islands away, and they could actually put you in jail. And you had somewhere between 2 weeks to a month to get the paperwork. But if you didn't get this paperwork, the jail would sell you into enslavement. So you could be a person who's never been enslaved, but because someone came up and asked you for your papers and you couldn't produce it at that moment in time, you were in jail and now you're enslaved.
Okay, that is.
Think about what happened in Nevada, where
Oh
people are
yeah.
asking people for paperwork. History repeats itself. And so if we don't learn because we've taken away history, we will repeat itself. And I think we are smarter folks. We can understand nuances in a different, incredible way. We need to know the history.
Okay, so we've come to the end of our discussion session. We just have a couple more standard questions that we ask every author. It's kind of like a Captain Obvious question, especially the first one, but we decided to ask because it's part of the cause, and also everyone gives really different answers. So we're looking forward to yours. You've been so incredibly supportive of our Read for Pixels campaign. You've been so busy, and yet you and Ellie, we're giving a shout out to Ellie here, who is Vanessa's publicist. Both of you have made such a huge, we feel so welcome, and it was great working with both of you. And you support our anti-violence against women work. Now, why do you support the cause to end violence against women?
It's wrong, right? First, from violence against anybody is wrong. Violence against women not only affects the woman, but affects the entire chain. Women are the central of the chains. We're the mothers. Typically we're the caregivers in the family. And when a woman is feeling oppressed, when she is abused, she cannot serve everybody in the role she needs to serve. And she cannot be everything she needs to be. So we need to end violence against women because that is going to make our society an even stronger, better place.
That when you say that, that brings to mind a few years ago there was this study that was done and the results were released. I think it was by the World Economic, yeah, one of the World Bank or something, and I can't remember offhand, but what struck me is that they said that they did this survey, this study, and it costs the world economy over $9 billion if just from domestic violence against women alone. Domestic violence costs the world $9 billion per year in lost labor, in lost earning power, because women aren't working, aren't contributing to the economy. They are beaten, all that violence, they're killed, and that's costing the world.
Yeah. Lost labor. I mean, think about a woman having to go into hiding. A woman, now her if she has children, she may have to put them through protective services, which is more money the system is having to invest. She may be living in a halfway house to get away from this violent person. She cannot necessarily go back to the jobs anywhere that she was connected before because the violence may follow her. So she's disrupted, and everything that she was economically touching or supporting is now broken as well. So I could definitely see that it's a huge economic drain when a woman has to endure violence.
Yeah, and domestic violence is cyclical. It carries down the generations. So imagine if you grew up in that sort of family, and sometimes you don't get the education you need. Sometimes you don't get the opportunities you need because, or there are the opportunities are there, but you can't take them because you didn't get the education or the training or whatever you need because you were too busy together with your mom surviving domestic violence.
Mhm.
And one more question, which is, what do you think authors can do to help with the cultural change needed to eradicate violence against women and girls?
I think it's always continuing to, as you build a book, as I build my books, I try and make sure I have fair and balanced portrayals of women. And so if a story has to have a woman who's unprotected, who is marginalized in some way, I'm going to balance that story out with women who aren't marginalized or who can help this woman accomplish whatever she needs to do. So that sisterhood effect is incredibly important. But every author needs to approach it in, how can I make sure when somebody reads my book, they're a better person when they finish? They take something from this book that helps them on their journey, whether that just be a joy or smile, to somewhere something more weighty, a value system, inspection, etc. You know, what can I do with my fiction so that someone's life is different in some way? That's what I do. Once again, I would never tell anybody how to write their own books, but that's something that's very important to me. And I think that is how it's done. Books change worlds, change thoughts, change views. And everything that an author can do to do that, I think is incredibly exciting.
Mm. Oh, before we go to the wrap up, our ever resourceful producer, Anusha, has gone and found more something else that we should share. She says the International Monetary Fund found that domestic violence costs any given economy between 1 and 2% of the GDP. And here's the link to the IMF study. You can, even if you're watching this afterwards, you just have a look at the discussion going on, in the chat box. It should be there. And you can click on the link that Anusha has shared so you can read more about this. I'm going to stick myself back on the screen. Hi, everybody. I'm the disembodied voice that was chatting with Vanessa. Um, so thank you, Vanessa, for the excellent discussion. And in case anyone has missed the start of the session, we are excited to let you know that Vanessa has donated a couple of super exclusive goodies to the stash of author treats that we have up to give to donors at the Read for Pixels Rally Up fundraising page. So the first one is Vanessa's Rogues and Remarkable Women Goodie Bundle. This is for US donors only, and we were talking a lot about her books just now. So if you're a historical romance fan in the US, there's one of this bundle, and it's perfect if you love to read historical romances powered by a diverse and engaging cast, and includes a duke, a lady and her baby, Earl, the girl and her toddler, a duke, the spy, an artist, and a lie. I'm going to say this again. I love that title. And two bookmarks, so you'll always know where you stop reading, and you can resume whenever you like. And Vanessa will sign and personalize it for you. And the second book bundle is for all you historical fiction fans. It's Vanessa's tote bag of warrior women books. Again, it's for US donors only. And you will get the tote bag together with Island Queen, the trade paperback edition of it, and Sister Mother Warrior in hardcover. And you'll get one bookmark. And for Vanessa has not forgotten about those of you who are outside the US. She has a mini starter book bundle, which is unsigned inside, but we have an interesting detail we'll tell you a little bit. So this mini book bundle is specially curated by Vanessa herself for historical fiction fans who love reading about the lives of complex and fascinating Black women and women of color, and includes Island Queen and a Duke, a Lady, and a Baby. And all the books in this bundle will be unsigned. But if you get it, if you donate to get that bundle, you can email Vanessa at vanessariley.com to let her know that you have the bundle, and she will send you She will sign a book plate and send it to you, or you can just let us know when when we reach out to you after you get the bundle and we reach out to you to get your address. You can let us know, how you want Vanessa to personalize the book plate, and we'll let Vanessa know as well. Either way, you can email Vanessa directly, or you can let us know and we'll let Vanessa know. And please make sure before you get this bundle, go to Book Depository to check that they actually deliver to your country. They don't deliver to all countries, but they do deliver to most countries, I think.
Most.
Most, yeah. And there are also plenty more goodies available from authors and publishers, including Alison Littlewood, Swati Teerdhala, Sonali Dev, Chloe Lisa, Angela Eureka Smith, Adiba Jagildar, Carol Goodman, Leanna Renee Heber, Romina Garber, and Tangled Publishing. So if you like romances, and Tangled Publishing has plenty of romance mystery book boxes for you. They've actually donated two. And some have historical romances in them as well. So if anyone here is a romance fan, we have those mystery book boxes, Black Spot Books, and more. And new goodies will be released every week on Fridays throughout March 2023. Now, we have had a very, very slow start to our fundraiser with only $1,110 raised towards our $5,000 goal so far. It's already the third week of the campaign. So please give generously before the fundraiser ends on 15 April. All funds go towards keeping our programs alive and kicking. Now, I'm going to share a slide here for everyone to see so you can see where to go to get your goodies. So to donate to get goodies via Rally App, go to tinyurl.com/R4P Rally App IWD 2023. This is case sensitive, everybody. So please make sure you take this down exactly. And Anusha, our producer, has also pasted the link in the YouTube chat box, so you can just click to go. And you can find out more about the Read for Pixels campaign by going to bit.ly/readforpixels. Now, we also need to tell y'all something. We have announcements coming up. So Vanessa says an announcement, but we also have an announcement. So the Pixel Project's Shirley Jackson Award nominated and Audie Award nominated First Charity Anthology, Giving the Devil His Due, where The Twilight Zone Meets Promising Young Woman, is now available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook editions, and is available for order from major booksellers worldwide, including Amazon, Kobo, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, Book Depository, and more. Now, if you are an audiobook fan, we are excited to let you know that we are currently still having a special International Women's Day deal. You can download the book from audiobook retailers worldwide, including Spotify, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, Kobo, Chirp, and more, for just $8. There's a few hours left. It ends at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time today. So if you're watching this now and you haven't downloaded your copy, please do. It's the final day. And for paperback fans, we have teamed up with 12 of the 16 authors to offer exclusive limited edition anthology book plates for paperback buyers. And each author has 16 book plates with them, and they will sign it and personalize it for you on a first-come, first-served basis. Each book plate includes a resource for domestic violence and sexual assault victims and survivors in 205 countries. So for more information about the anthology and how to score a book plate, please visit bit.ly Giving the Devil His Due. And for the audiobook, visit tinyurl.com/GTDHD audiobook R4P. And all net proceeds go towards keeping the Pixel Project's campaigns, programs, and initiatives alive and kicking. And if you want to find out more about violence against women and what you can do about it, visit the Pixel Project's website at thepixelproject.net. Now, Vanessa has an announcement herself. You have Island Queen coming out soon, right?
Oh, no. Oh, Queen of Exiles.
Okay. Yes, Queen of Exiles.
Queen of Exiles will be coming in July. So you can pre-order it now at all your major retailers. Queen of Exiles.
Is there going to be a hardcover edition?
There'll be a hardcover edition, yes. And the artwork is gorgeous, completely amazing. But I think it's going to be one of my best books. So I think everybody should just run out and go pre-order.
Would you someday would you do a graphic novel about about featuring the stories in your books? That would
You
be so
never know.
cool.
That's those are always interesting, and you want to get the stories out about these women to as many ways possible. So that might be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So with that, we will all thank everybody for joining us today and have a good day or good night wherever you are in the world.
Bye.